Hello YouTube, newsletter, and survival group subscribers. This is Terrell from Terrell03.com. Today is August 23rd, 2018. This is the Black Star update report, the long report. That is going to be a long report for newsletter 34. And lots and lots to cover for this week. Be sure to go to my YouTube channel, Terrell Black Star, and make sure you subscribe and like and all that stuff. And check out this video, 8.2 Fiji quake strikes. Click and watch the video. Big event. Seismic event indicators say Earth has entered the second Earth change uptick period for the 2018 Earth orbit cycle relative to the Black Star position between the Sun and Libra. And there's Libra constellation. See, Jupiter's in Libra, Black Star's in Libra, and here we go. Electromagnetic jolt. May, we were over here. We moved all the way over to here. We've been moving away from the Black Star. Now we're making the move through the Black Star headlights. And received the electromagnetic jolt. And things happening differently than on the last cycle. I'll explain to you why here in a second. Neptune, see it? Earth coming around. Neptune. That's when geophysicists, make sure you read his article. Tons of information. And he's looking for around September the 7th. Whenever we pass between Neptune, he thinks that's going to be because of the properties of Neptune, how it's unique. And he has some interesting theories, and we'll see. He's expecting an 8 magnitude earthquake, which we just received one here, and we get one per year usually. We didn't even have one for 2 years. So now we did last year, and we have this year, and there are going to be similar events, even though this one came earlier than expected. I'll explain that to you here in just a second. So watch for the conjunction here with relative to the Sun with the Earth and Neptune, and we'll see. So from our jolt position right over here at outside orbit, then we're able to calculate the days using the 93 number, and it puts me at November the 20th for a backside alignment. Kind of thinking that's going to be closer to the 22nd, but we'll see. It's going to be November 20th, November 21st. It's going to be right in that area, and that was predicted from last year using November the 19th for New Caledonia, if you remember. And the year before that was 7.8 New Zealand. So it's gone from the 14th of November, 19th of November. I expect it to go not quite as far. It won't be 5 degrees probably. Maybe it'll be 4 degrees on this backside move, where Jupiter has been on the opposite side of the solar system, so it hasn't had the heavy influence. In fact, there's nothing over here to be messing with us. Saturn's over here, Jupiter's over here. So that's where we are now. November the 20th, we have backside alignment. Start the new cycle over here in February when we get another O in the chart. And that's when we're going to reach the 90 over here at this position. Watch for videos about magnetopause reversals and things. See the moon? It's just entering Earth magnetosphere. And if we get a G2 storm, G1 storm even, it energizes the moon, creates flows, eddy flows that reach around the energized moon and then put eddy formations into Earth magnetosphere. It makes people think that we're having a magnetopause reversal when it's a mini collapse is all it is. And we documented that October 14th through the 18th, 2016. Go to my YouTube videos. You'll get the original one and then an update. There's lots of good information on that phenomenon. So this is about the time whenever that should be happening. 13 opportunities per year, and we're entering one of those right now. Then 773, that would have been the world record before May of 2018. It'd be the highest number since the investigation started. But now, since we've had over 2,000, then it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But when you look at the data, at outside orbit position, we generally have 200, around 200 And that looks like it's out the window for good. For now, we're trying to find the new threshold number. I don't know if we can. We'll see. Come down here to the bottom of the chart. Well, up here you see we had the 24 weeks for last cycle, following the 7.9 Papua, 7.5 Papua, the reset, same pattern from 2016. And then we went 24 weeks again. This is the 7.3 Venezuela quake. This is the 8.2 quake right here. This is already filled in for next week. So why is it in there for next week? Because it happened after Saturday night at midnight. So this is already part of the data going in for week 27 ends midnight this Saturday. So then we'll put these numbers in here, but you can see this is the low water mark right here. See, at least we're in the 200s. And that kind of surprises me. I didn't think we'd get it down to the 200s up in here. Suddenly we jumped down. This is the week we had no deep earthquakes in Fiji for the first time that I can remember. Not having any deep earthquake events in Fiji, and then we get pounded. And that could be an ominous sign for what's going on at the Oklahoma quake swarm area. Only one quake out of that quake swarm area this week in the central part of the United States. So unusual set of patterns right now. And you can see the 7. That equals the number for the previous month of 6 magnitude earthquakes right here. And I see that we reached our threshold number back here at 20 for the 5 magnitude earthquakes. But this activity was still blistering. And knowing where we are in the orbit cycle, then, at least for right now, this is going to be our O position right here. This is going to be when we reach outside orbit position. And then week 26 is when we're going to get the jolt. But this is towards the end of the week when we got the jolt. Because this event right here, which is the focal point, it came only 20 minutes into week 27. So we started getting the jolt right here in week 26. So sometimes the way that the weeks work, Saturday night at midnight, Saturday night to midnight, then things really, really work. And sometimes the big change comes in the center of the week and you get a splashing over of values. That's what we're looking at right here. It's not as well defined here at outside orbit position because of how it came. How it looks like the electromagnetic jolt began in the middle of the week. And even though we got the focal point in the minutes leading up to week 27. So now that we're in the uptick period, we can easily see all these values across the board going up. And we usually get a mini lull in October, but the magma plume formation is already expanded. That's why you're seeing this. This is crazy. Nothing like this has happened before. More than 50 deep earthquake events on the Fiji side for Earth Mantle Transition Zone. If you've been living under a rock, you haven't been checking, this is a gigantic event. When you add up all the magnitudes and all the decompression, all the expansion inside of Earth Mantle Transition Zone, this is a mighty, mighty uplift that's happening right here. And the energy requires time to course all the way through the corridor. It doesn't happen instantly. It takes days, up to a week. But based on recent data, 4 to 5 days, 4 to 5, 6 days. So by this weekend, we should see evidence of where this energy is going, which we're seeing some of it. Notice the big circles? United States, these are Cascadia quakes. Information, links and things down here below. But you can see in the United States that the earthquakes are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. This is relative to the 8.1 Mexico quake from last cycle. This is relative to the 7.1 Mexico quake from the last cycle. They both happened in September of last year. So if the black star moved left in the orbit diagram, how come it's not happening later? The reason? Mantle plume connections. Let me see if I can get you through this. This bad boy right here being connected to these. This is what happened with Hawaii. You get that connection made. Then black star, we begin moving away from the black star whenever the magma plume formation that this is connected to, this thing right here, started shrinking. Earth core cooling. Because two primary sources, solar and redirected solar electromagnetism and deep earthquake events, produce this. Now with the mantle plume connections, this magma plume formation is way bigger than this. This is a 2015 image, way before the mantle plume connections were made. Hawaii right up in here. This had to push further east before the Galapagos connection could be made right here, causing Corridor 2 to expand into the Pacific Ocean, underneath the Caribbean, underneath the Gulf of Mexico, and all this activity. This is blob. See, this is Corridor 2 is part of the main system. It's its own buoyancy barrier corridor. It's connected, but because of these mantle plume connections, it's kind of got a life of its own. That's what we're seeing. Then, you remember the 5.4 LA quake, 10-kilometer depth? That told me that the terminal end of this formation, this corridor, is extended all the way up underneath Cascadia, and we're seeing more evidence of that with this at the 10-kilometer depth. This activity that we're having here, 5s and 6s, that are popping off here in Cascadia. If you've been following my research for a long time, you know that I've been saying that a linchpin event is going to happen up in here. That's going to cause a new series of earthquakes up here in Cascadia. And it could be a 5.9. Now, we're having larger earthquakes up here than that right now. So the scenario that we're talking about right here is danger, danger, danger. Increased activity everywhere. 2 deep quakes, Russia. 2 deep quakes, Indonesia. More than 50 over here. This giant magma plume formation is getting, it's got a year's worth of deep earthquake events from Fiji in a single week. That energy is going to go somewhere, and it hasn't got to where it's going yet. This isn't over just from this. We'll see how this activity, how it continues. But because the rigidity of the buoyancy barriers were the tensile strength was powerful, because the magma plume formation has been growing all summer rather than shrinking. It wasn't waiting for black star electromagnetic energy, the jolt, to begin heating up Earth core and expanding. It was already expanded. So whenever we got the jolt, everything was primed. This is different than every other orbit cycle. So my predictions for something happening in September like last year, they aren't going to happen. They already happened. They happened right here. This is our 8.2 Fiji is the 8.1 Mexico from the last cycle. You say, well, why did it happen over here instead of over here? We were getting deep earthquake events on this side that was sending energy up through here, while these buoyancy barrier corridors were narrow after the contraction. So the energy comes through, bounces off the terminal end, tests the terminal end, which was closer to Mexico at that time, and bam, so we get the 8.1 quake up here. And then the 7.1 quake here, because the activity kept continuing on the Fiji side. So our watch area was up here and near the terminal end last cycle. Pretty easy to project where that energy was going to go, because it took time from outside orbit position. You'll notice that the O for last cycle is on week 28. We started receiving the electromagnetic jolt sooner, but we didn't see the evidence of it for weeks later, because it took time for the magma plume formation to grow, to get the tensile strength in the buoyancy barrier, the buoyancy barriers. Different scenario now. And that's what I was saying, is that danger, danger, danger. The mantle plume connections. Let me get back over to some of these web pages. The mantle plume connections were not yet made to this until May, after the uptick period was over. We went through the lull with these mantle plume, Hawaii connected, Galapagos connected, and then we got the Cobb mantle plume connection along with these others. So rather than shrinking, this has been growing the whole time, primed, ready, bam, get the jolt, and then we see instantly what's happening right at outside orbit position, rather than waiting for that period of time. And this is part of the new dynamic. And that's what I was saying. We're in uncharted waters. So instead of the event coming a few days later than last year because of black star leftward movement in the orbit diagram, it's coming earlier because of what's under our feet, what's expanding underneath our feet. This is an image of mantle plume. If you want to know the difference between magma plume formation, this is a magma plume formation contained by buoyancy barriers. This is a mantle plume formation from Earth core, pushing energy, but then it comes in, it connects to the magma plume formation. That energy then goes into the plume, causing expansion. It causes those buoyancy barriers to tighten up. They're expanding, and the strength of the corridor, it's rather than flexible and flabby kind of because it's contracting, doesn't have enough internal pressure like a balloon, then it is tight and growing, terminal ends growing around our planet. So, uncharted waters, I'm interested to see how this plays out. It is not over yet. This is just starting. Then, this is information that I wanted to share with you. This is going to be the focal point right out here. Look at the scaling map of the future. Look how thin the crust is out here. You're talking 60 kilometers out here. Right here, 220 kilometers to 250 kilometers. This is where you want to be if you're American. And you don't want to be east of the Mississippi River Basin. 200 nuclear power plants are inside the circle I'm drawing right here. If you're up in this area here, you're downwind of at least 24 nuclear power plants. One needs to melt down, and you're done. So you want to be upwind. You want to be on this side of the Mississippi River Basin, on the North American Craton, near cavern positions. That's why most of our survival groups are right in the 6-county area of northwest Arkansas. See, we're on the North American Craton. That's where we want to be. At least 1,000 feet of elevation. When you start doing the research about the 6-county area, you'll see that it's optimum, perfect. As soon as you get out of that 6th county, that's 3 counties wide and 2 counties deep, right here in Arkansas. I think's the best, because you're further south, and whenever these pyroclastic flows northern start happening, these dust clouds, then it's going to want to be carried by the prevailing winds up in this direction. That's what it's going to want. Of course, the wind can change. That's why you want a cavern, to be able to go inside with a strong survival group with your supplies. And if you have the resources, my goodness gracious, you want to get away from the coast, all the coasts, but particularly you want to get out from anywhere that is west of the Rocky Mountain Ridge. You do not want to be over here. That's part of the reason that we want to be down here, is that we're protected by the Rocky Mountain Ridge. Chaos and destruction over here on this side. Look at the scaling map of the future. I didn't pull it up. But imagine the eruption that takes place in order to create that giant inland sea. Then, what was it? Oh, these are news stories from people that are being displaced around the world in August, this month. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people are being displaced from earthquakes, from new volcanic eruptions, from volcanic eruptions, period, from flooding, from drought, from you name it. It's happening all around the world. So members that are in our survival group program are the ones that are thinking ahead and making preparations so that they're not stuck. They're not caught like these people right here. And I can continue going through the links and show you hundreds of these stories where it's happened. There are people on bikes running away from cities. Total destruction in places. It's coming to the United States. It's just not here yet. Try not to get desensitized by seeing all the chaos and calamity around the world, because it is coming. And it's easy just to see it and then ignore it and then get caught when it comes to to a place near you. And you think that you know people, you think you know the locals, you think you know your neighbors, until everybody runs out of food and there's no power and the home's wrecked and you have no plan, you have no stored supplies, no bug out bag, no survival strategy, no bug out location. You don't have a Rebecca or a Linda, who's your survival group leader, to call and know exactly what to do. I highly recommend that once you wake up and realize that this is coming, we're talking about what could be characterized as a near extinction level event with this magma plume formation that is going, the buoyancy barriers are going to break at some point. And it's going to leave giant dust clouds that change the face of this planet. And the idea of having no plan and just hope that you get lucky, that there's three kinds of people. People that make things happen, and you want to be one of those kind of people. People like Rebecca, Clint, Chris, people in the Survivor Group program, devising their strategy, making things happen. Because they can see it coming. I see it coming. I share the information with you guys. And then you can you begin devising your survival strategy, getting in the right place at the right time. You get your threat assessment information from me. You'll be able to identify a real safe zone location. Then if you're in the United States Survivor Group program, hundreds of people, hundreds of families, then you can find out who's in your state, who you can begin working with, networking. Contact Rebecca about joining the primary group. Linda, the group along the Texas-New Mexico border. That's going to be a great option. Well, it is a great option, but it's going to be an even better option. There are things happening in the background that I can't share, other than I just tell you there's something happening in the background. And it looks like good things coming for the entire USA Survivor Group program, thanks to Linda and the things that she's doing behind the scenes. That I hope to be able to, she sent me an update this morning, still nothing that I can share with you though. But whenever she gives me the go-ahead, then it's going to be time to make a big video about the changes that are happening for Linda's group and the entire USA Survivor Group program. And then we'll see if that can possibly develop so that other survival group programs around the world can benefit from that too. I mean, just letting you know, a little update. Now let's get back over here. So, for those that don't know, if you're brand new, this is Corridor, Buoyancy Barrier Corridor 2. Corridor number 1 is the shortest. This is the convergence area, right up here, Cascadia, Alaska. We've been watching the pattern of larger magnitude earthquakes, just like the 5.4 went past. We were tracking them down here in the California, in the Gulf of California, right up through here. That was on the last cycle. Then 5.4 LA quake struck up in here. Links are down in the report. Now we're getting the larger magnitude earthquakes at the 10-kilometer depth striking further north than that. They're in Cascadia already. So we'll see how that shakes out. I'm expecting more convergence right up in here. You see the arrows? This is so many times the investigation. These arrows have been drawn for something big to happen at the tips of the arrows. I don't know if I just got lucky or whatever, but this is the area that has been active. I'm not going to be surprised at all if this energy doesn't ball up here at this convergence area of 1 and 2 to create something that is really, really big on the other end of what's going on down here. I'm not going to be surprised at all if something like that happened. Then 7.3 Venezuela up here, and you're not seeing the depths, but these are all deep magma plume. Then I'm going to show you the magnitudes on this one. Next week I'll show you the depths. Then this is a little odd, what's going on in the central part of the United States. The links to all these earthquakes are down below. Texas, only one event in Oklahoma, 2.6. That's a 2.5 magnitude or higher. And usually we're going to have an event per day out of this area. And at this point, they're averaging 5-kilometer depths. All of these are at the 5-kilometer depth. And then that's going to go deeper and deeper as you get into the peak of the uptick period, November. These will get deeper and deeper and deeper down to 14 or 15-kilometer depths. So this is just a little bit strange. You don't see this vertical pattern in the United States, in the central part of the United States. There's nothing that's on the East Coast yet, but that is coming. Just be patient. As we get later in the uptick period, you'll see sprinkling of earthquake activity that's happening up here. And then more than 50 deep earthquake events. Obviously, I mean, that hasn't happened. I'm going to, at some point, have to go look at the historical data. And if there was more time, then I would want to go through these 50 quakes and add up the magnitudes and see how much energy. This is an enormous amount of energy that is exploded underneath the surface of this Fiji region right here. If we get stories of massive uplifting over here, not going to be surprised at all. Entire islands being lifted up and things. That is truly huge. And then here's that Texas quake that's down there. And the last time that I noted the lack of earthquakes was in Fiji last week. And then this happened. There were none over the 7-day period leading up to this. And this happened. And it's giving me a little bit of concern of what's going on in the central part of the United States, because only one out of the Oklahoma quake swarm area. And I can't remember when that happened, but just one in a week. I can't remember that happening. So it kind of makes me think, get that feeling, that we could be looking at, just because of the pressure shift, the energy coming from this part of the world going over into the Atlantic, and this is Oklahoma quake swarm areas on the foot formation of the North American Craton. That was, let me show you that right here. Right down in here, there's a foot formation of this North American Craton. So this energy pushes against it. It's trying to go, this energy that's out in here is trying to go into, and it pushes against it, and it's 220 kilometers deep. So that, in my view, that's where it's causing the Oklahoma quake swarm area. And you say, well, you need more evidence. You can't, you can't just conclude that without, well, that's because the conclusion was made back in 2014, after Solomon Island quake event, February 6th, 2013. Before Solomon Island, we go back to 2010, 11, and 12. The number of 3 magnitude earthquakes out of the Oklahoma quake swarm area was extremely low. After Solomon Island is whenever that number started, 3+ magnitude earthquakes out of Oklahoma started climbing and going up, 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 because of the tectonic cascade. So these tectonic plates pressed up against this North American Craton are trying to go towards Solomon Island because of the tectonic plate that broke in two. That's whenever the jump's taking place. And that's why that I've drawn that conclusion. Now read the Russian report after Solomon Island. It came out the summer of 2014 about the Grim report from the Russians and about the expanding Earth. Has an expanding Earth link that's in there, and that's going to be because of the deep magma plume formation that is growing and just received more energy than I've ever seen in a 7-day period. It's causing Earth mantle transition zone to want to grow. That's going to open up fissures, more and more fissures. Fissures have been opening up in this area because of the tectonic cascade, and in Central America, and in South America, like it's happening over in Kenya. In Africa, that is breaking apart because of what? Magma plume activity. Deep magma plume activity is breaking it apart. It's happening in slow motion. This thing right here looks kind of docile, doesn't it? Underneath, it's the title of the article is about how the scientists are puzzled about this guy, and now it's growing to encompass the whole world, having more and more influence on the Pacific Ocean. I mean, on the Atlantic Ocean. And you see how I can demonstrate. Oh, I want to give you another shot of these. The links to these quakes are down in, or the largest one, 5.6. This is all magma plume driven, all of it around Antarctica right here. And whenever you, I can show you. Look at all the 10s. Look at all the 10s on the map. Look at all the 10s. All deep magma plume driven. And it's likely, this was more well defined last week, but you can see this activity returning north of Madagascar. There's something that's been worried about this area that's right here. It's sporadic activity, then it goes away. Sporadic activity, then it goes away. Then the activity shifted more up between Somalia and Yemen, and now that's out of the this waterway, and it's out more into the Indian Ocean. Some of the patterns, things that I see. And still, I believe that Great Britain is going to start receiving a series of earthquakes. This energy coming down this corridor right here has been shifting further and further north. And with the activity that circled the North Pole, you still see a remnant of that right here. And what's in between? Great Britain. right there. These two quakes here likely were triggered by activity from the other side of the planet, not from 3 or from 4. This is going to be from the magma plume formation, the Galapagos mantle plume formation, and this giant blob that's just growing from the Pacific Ocean into the Atlantic Ocean. So we're getting activity on this side, and we're getting this pattern of 5 magnitude earthquakes with this activity. This didn't show up after this activity. We do not have connectors that are running to it. But now that we're in the uptick period, and remember, this one's going to be different than any other one. Everything's primed, ready to go with the deep magma plume formation. That is the new trigger. So, Bonnie, I did not get to your video about Mr. BBB guy because I know that he made that prediction, and I was saying that it had a lower chance of being fulfilled, and I turned out to be wrong, right? I turned out to be wrong because the jolt, I hadn't made allowance for the expansion of the deep magma plume and it being primed so that when we got the jolt, the first jolt, bam, that we got all this result. So the trigger for this activity is going to be the electromagnetic jolt from the black star. Our proximity to the black star being at the 90-degree angle. That's what caused it. So it's just like the 8.1 from last year, Mexico, just like the 7.1 last year, crammed together because of the tensile strength of the buoyancy barriers of this deep magma plume formation. That is the trigger, and I have sent Mr. BBB guy tons of information on the new seismic trigger, the growing dynamic. But my suspicion is, this is just ridiculous. My suspicion is that he's going to continue to use his old modeling, and even a blind hog roos up acorn every now and then. And since we had 24 weeks go by without a 7, then pressures were built. And so right when we got to the 90-degree position, we were no longer moving away from the black star. Boom, Earth's got that jolt. And everything was primed and ready to go. So, my apologies for not getting Mr. BBB's update report. I'm sure it's going to be very similar to Dutch Sense, that makes 100 predictions a week, couple come true, and bam, busy patting himself on the back, which a little patting on the back does researcher good whenever he's on the case and he understands the cause. I still am not convinced that Dutch Sense nor Mr. BBB guy nor Mary Greeley understand the deep magma plume trigger as the stimulus for what's happening around our planet right now. This activity, this is all deep magma plume stuff I'm looking at right now. And then we have all these deep earthquake events that's going to produce even more. So let me see here. Mine's kind of jumping around. Deep magma plume connected to the mantle plumes. Earth crust. You don't want to be anywhere over here. You want to be, if you're in the United States and you got plenty of resources, lots of money, and you're over here, you need to think about becoming, going to the Midwest. And think about if you want 60 kilometers of crust under your feet whenever all this magma upwelling takes place, Yellowstone pops. Do you want to be on this side of the Rocky Mountain Ridge? Fighting for your life? Just to try to get out of the area? Or do you want to be already in a real safe zone? Right down in here. Or along the Texas-New Mexico border. Down in here. So if you have the resources, you guys are encouraged. Even if you don't join the Survival Group program, get your tails over here. You want to be west of the Mississippi River Basin. You want to be at least 100 miles. You want to be at the elevation. Our Survival Group programs are 150 miles from what we characterize as the liquefaction zone. It's going to happen when New Madrid pops over here. So we want to be south of that position. We want to be south of Wyoming. Yellowstone pops. So that's why this, in my mind, is the best survival group. This is the best survival location in the United States. On the North American Craton, far enough away from all the coasts, and above 1,000-foot elevation. But not too high. You don't want to go too high, near black star proximity. Whenever going through the pole shifts, black stars real close to us, Earth magnetosphere fluctuates, upper layers of Earth atmosphere begin stripping away until we move away from the black star. So if you're 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 feet above sea level, then you could suffocate, particularly if you're a flatlander like me in Florida and you're used to living at sea level. Try to run into the mountains and kill yourself. So that's if you're already acclimated, then you have a better shot. For somebody like myself, the Ozarks, what I want is to be at 1,000 to 2,000 feet and to keep as much atmosphere above my head as possible, moving through the different threats, black star threats, near proximity, pole shifts. If you're out here in the middle of the country on the North American Craton, the Earth can flip around. That's going to inundate salt water. Salt water. It's going to flood up against the mountains and then wash back out again. No safe zones, no safe zones, no safe zones. This is where your safe zones are, right through here. Not even this part of Texas is safe. Ocean waters, it's going to ride up. It's going to ride up so high, and whenever you look at the elevations, you'll see the elevation change right about here to where it starts getting safe. So, give you a little bit of background information on the, especially for those that are joining the Survivor Group program. And when you want more information on benefits, then you can write me or you can watch this video. It explains everything. The threat assessment information, sharing your contact information, receiving Survivor Group information, being connected with the Survivor Group leadership, the introductions and everything. Then you receive your Survivor Group info notification email with all your group options and then the contact information of everybody that's in the program. That does go country by country, obviously. If you join the Kiwis or the Aussies, you're going to get all their information. You don't get information from the Americans. Unless you want to join the USA Survivor Group program. And many Canadian members, particularly if you're on the East Coast, you're over towards Ontario, then you have to make a decision. Because the distance to the Ozarks is far shorter than going way out west to Edmonton. And now if you're more on the Edmonton side, or that half of Canada, then you may want to join Dave's group over there. They have protection of the mountain range over there. Happy to help you get hooked up so you have the opportunity to join the USA Survivor Group program or the Canadian group Survivor Group program. So you have that option. You can join one or the other or both. And then know what your options are. Then let's get back over here to the newsletter. And you're seeing some repetition. Here's the Hawaii article on the mantle plumes. Really, really important that you understand this stuff. To understand the threat. What's coming later down the road. And 4 new volcanic eruptions. This is probably going to be the low water mark that we see for a while. I'm going to be surprised if it goes lower. But usually we get down to 1 or 2 at outside orbital position. We had 5 last week, 5 the week before that, 7, 7, and 7 before that. Those numbers are higher than we've seen for the new volcanic eruption events. 3 along corridor 1, these 3 right here. Indonesia, the origination zone. And then going up corridor 1 to Japan first, and then Russia. So now that we're in the uptick period, what does this mean? Corridor 1 has all this activity. And expect to see a lot more along corridor 2 next week because of what just happened. And then watch the Aleutians. Watch Alaska. Going up in the other direction. Because here's the energy, boom. Here's the corridor. Japan. Well, Philippines got missed. And then, so we got Japan and we got Russia. So what comes next? Pressure's going this way. See the arrow? The Aleutian chain. Those volcanoes that are not already erupting are going to start erupting. This energy definitely going in that direction. Watch for the Aleutians and then Alaska, and then we'll see what happens on the mainland. See what happens in the continental United States. Because eventually that's coming. Dormant volcanoes. We're going to have more volcanic activity near where these 2 areas are coming together, and that's, you can see, larger activity. Series of 5 magnitude earthquakes at the 10-kilometer depth, all the way up going through here. So we saw 5.4 LA. Now we see this one heading further north. There's a progression of these larger magnitude earthquakes that are heading up to this convergence area. And whenever they get there, it looks like the scenario is going to be fulfilled to begin the Scallion map. How things are going to shake out. Linchpin event happens up in here for all hell to break loose. It hasn't happened yet, but when we're seeing sixes that are popping off over here, up here regularly, it's just a matter of time before Cascadia Basin comes unlocked. More, goodness gracious, look at all the activity. Look at all the activity that we've had and the activity that's coming because of this, and you'll realize that this is not the place to be. You are in the crosshairs of the coming seismic volcanic storm. It's coming in this direction. Energy coming from here, converging over here, not just to the Americas, through the Americas, into the Atlantic Ocean. Haven't seen this much activity on a single map since the investigation started. And what I was warning you guys about, the uptick periods from now on, there are not going to be like recent uptick periods where it takes a lot of time for earth core to heat up first, preheating an oven. Forget all that. The oven is staying hot. Whenever the uptick periods begin, bam, off we go. Watch for the one in February to do very similar things as we're moving towards the black star, because the magma plume formation is going to be expanding for this entire period. There's going to be no contraction moving through the next lull period. And the reverberating wave action moving through the corridors is what's been producing all the 7 magnitude earthquakes moving to the last lull period of the cycle. That's happened for the last 2 years. Is that going to change this year? We're going to watch. We pass behind the sun. We'll see if we have 2 7 magnitude earthquakes. And then a brief pause, and then bam. See if we get struck again. It could lead to another 24 weeks without a 7 if we follow the pattern for the last few years. And very strange, central part of the United States, the lack of activity. Seems like we would be having more, particularly right out of the Oklahoma quake storm area. Then on this side, you see activity increasing, see all the 10s. So the energy coming from the origination zone going into the Atlantic Ocean from this direction. It's happening from both directions. This activity is going to be from corridor 2. So there's a convergence that's happening right here when you look at the larger picture. Then, so we've reached the 90-degree angle position. We've already got our electromagnetic jolt. Then this, the warnings being issued right here cannot possibly be overstated. Everyone has been warned that Earth would receive a powerful electromagnetic jolt, just like last year. That produced the 8.1 and the 7.1 Mexico quakes. Everybody's been warned about the mantle plume connections that were not made until just recently in combination with a 6.9 Hawaii quake. Considerable time has been required for Earth core to heat up to begin the uptick periods. That's why you're seeing this uptick period begin in like week 28 instead of week 27 or 26. Because it always took a little bit of time. So we had to add a little bit of time over there. And before we could put in the O, because we were watching to reach the minimum values and then to see the acceleration. It took a little while for that acceleration. It doesn't take that time anymore. Because there's no contraction of the deep magma plume formation. There's no contraction of it anymore. Now it's growing. And it's going to continue growing. All there is now, because there was expansion during the uptick periods and contraction of the magma plume formation during the lull periods. There's not that anymore. Now there's rapid expansion of the magma plume formation going through the uptick periods, like right now, and there's going to be expansion, more gradual expansion moving to the lull periods, because the mantle plume connections are not going to become disconnected. They're going to stay connected, and the magma plume formation is going to keep getting bigger to make more connections. So what's happening, what you're seeing right here, is going to accelerate. And it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And it's easy for somebody to sit back and to see the act, like the frog in the boiling water. Well, the water gets a bit hotter. Well, and just sit there and not do anything. Wake up. Subscribe to the Survival Group program. Get your survival strategy. Connect with your survival leadership, your group members. You think that the neighbors and everybody is going to be just great when the crap hits the fan because they're good people and stuff? You know, my mother told me, I shared this with Clint just recently, because getting along with the locals and everything when everything's good, I mean, that's easy. But we have evidence, even in Scripture, of God's chosen race boiling their own babies because of being under siege. And the world is about to come under siege. And foreigners, when you go out of your home country and you go into other countries, foreigners will be boiled and eaten before the locals will boil their own children. Trust me on that part. If you want to build these relationships and become a member of the Strong Survival Group program, develop those relationships before the crap hits the fan. Because when the crap hits the fan, it's dog eat dog, Mad Max, and you're a threat. No matter where you go, you're going to be carrying whatever you're carrying as far as supplies. You're going to be carrying them for somebody else that's going to take them from you, because you do not have the military contingent of your survival group to protect you. And especially if you're in a city on the coast, worst place you can be. The number of people per square mile in, for example, New Jersey is over 1,000. The number of people per square mile in the state of Arkansas is 54. The numbers are, we have remote areas we deliberately chosen to put obstacles between populations and our survival group. And then we attract, the best we can, the military contingent to join our group. That's why we have shooting ranges, developing shooting ranges, obstacle courses, and everybody in the program goes through handgun training so that we can protect one another when the crap hits the fan. And very, very important. Things are getting more intense now. We're going through an uptick period that's going to be like none other. And then we're going to go through a lull period where previous cycles we've had a lot of 7 magnitude earthquakes. And then in February we're going to start the process again. But the mantle plumes are already going to be connected. So the uptick period from February, the end of February, through May is going to be the most intense that we have ever seen, because of the changing dynamic under our feet, the mantle plume connections to the magma plume formation. Lots of information on that right here. If you've been reluctant to go through the information, check click the links and get this, wrap your head around this, then please do so. The article going back and forth between myself and Clint is posted again this week, so you can have more opportunity to get more of this information inside of you, to understand more and more what the threat is. Whenever you understand the deep magma plume trigger and the threat, then you can go to Suspicious Observers, BP Earthwatch, Dutch Sense, Mary Greeley, and understand more about what they're saying. They do not see the cause, but they can help you they can share information on the symptoms, and then you can connect those symptoms back to the cause and kind of see what's going to happen in the future once you understand the trigger. Deep magma plume. The deep magma plume trigger. Project supporters for week 34 include Larry, Kelly, Jeff, Patrick, and Melissa. And actually, Melissa is a member of the Terrell's research group from the very beginning. And she's been around since before the newsletter program. And just love Melissa to death. She ran with Zeta Girl and J Lady and members of the research group. We were over 360 members, and before we were broken apart. So thank you, Melissa, for your support over the years. She's 02/20/2012, all the way back from the beginning, her subscription status. Then Linda, Aaron, Thomas, Carolyn, Richard, and Michael, they made their 2018 subscription payments, so everybody receives your 2018 newsletter, survival group, Dropbox folder link, notification email, all the information you need for having access to the newsletters and all the information for 2018. You receive that in January, but your 2018 payment is not made until the anniversary of your original subscription. So these are supporters that hung in there with me. They have access to the newsletters, and they subscribed like a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And so this is their 2018 payment. Appreciate you guys' support very, very much. Without you, there's going to be no investigation. Then getting more and more activity in the survival group programs. And more people waking up. Thank goodness for that. And Sherry and Larry and Jeff, they got their threat assessment information, their survival group information. They were introduced to the members of the USA and Canadian survival group programs. Mark joined the New Zealand group this morning. Then some people probably wondering why why is this link here to last week's newsletter? Because this information goes out to places like Bended Reality. You'll see his links down in here. They go out to Eric that I just did an interview with for posting on their websites. So this whole article will go on the website, but this week's newsletter isn't shared. The article from this newsletter is, but they get it. This link right here is so those readers can get last week's newsletter that has all of the other, old radio shows, survival group information, survival information, health and wellness. And the idea is to get more and more people looking at the newsletter, so we get more and more support for the research, more and more subscribers. It's only $2 per year, $2 a month to $25 per year to have a survival group subscription, and then only $25 more to be in the survival group program. So that's what the program is all about. Trying to help people wake up, trying to help people get connected. So I'd love to be mentioning your name and as a supporter of the research and helping you get connected to members that are already in the survival group program and preparing. Then neutralizing deep magma plume threat. You're going to see me talking and writing about this a lot. Black star and electromagnetic properties of planets in our solar system. This is GP, longtime supporter of the research, physicist, and he's got some information to share with you guys. With me and with these guys. Click on his link. Let's see, his link right here. Check out that paper. Then these are GP's writing me, I'm writing GP. GP's writing me, he's sending me more information. And then superconductivity. And he's making a case for Neptune. And then I give my reply right here. Links, you can follow my links, check my things out. I'm trying to share with him, he's sharing things back. And then we're going to watch, I did a little of the historical data. GP is going to continue doing that too, to look for the pattern identifying Neptune. For me personally, understanding more about Jupiter and its influence and how it's making our near-side alignments come early, and it was late on the backside, then I realized that there's a solar system harmonics component involved here. That's working. Neptune likely plays a role in that, but if it does, like Jupiter, then it's going to be a combo thing. It's not going to be a singular, we pass between Jupiter and get an event, or we pass between Saturn and get an event, or between Neptune or anything like that, or even the black star. So whenever we pass between there's a gravitational magnetic electromagnetic vortex that's created in our solar system by the black star and Jupiter and Saturn and proximal planets. Planets are in proximity, including the Earth. That vortex is what we've been tracking. That vortex is the reason that the Hawaii event struck early, because Jupiter was real close to it, but just to the right in the orbit diagram. So it caused the event to strike early. Next year, Jupiter will be on the left, and we'll see. So we're gathering more evidence on this, but the idea that we're going to pass between any planet, whether it's because Jupiter is way bigger and way closer, in my mind. It has a robust magnetosphere. It is connected to the sun, magnetic polar connection, and it comes very, very close to us. And the idea for me that a planet that's farther away is going to have more influence, then you're going to have to show me lots of information that's up there. And GP, real smart guy. He's going to hold us by the hand and lead us through this information. And some of it is comparable to what Jason has already shared. If Jason, if you're watching, might go through the information of GP here, and if you have a comment, love to hear from you and post some of your information. Let's get minds together on the topic, good minds working together, and see if we can't reason these and figure things out. What's going on? Survival questions from Hector, right here. So lots and lots of commentary from me to others on these related topics. The timing of recent activity, right? You're going to want to check out this article. I'm explaining some of that to you right now. This is starting at the bottom of page 20. The timing builds onto that. And the 8.2 and the 7.3 that we just had, comparable to Mexico last year, the electromagnetic jolt coming early because, I mean, the jolt is coming the same way from the black star, but Earth is receiving it differently. It's no longer taking time for the magma plume formation to heat up, for the core to heat up. It is the magma plume formation, that is the new trigger, is primed and ready all the time now. That's going to make things more interesting for me, because going to the 90-degree position, this magical place, opposite sides of the solar system, February and August, we always had to wait for the heating to take place, and I could feel it. A couple of weeks go by before I could start making these kind of reports. Not so this time, and not so moving to the end, to however this shakes out, how everything happens. We wind up with the scallion map scenario or whatever happens. Those, like I keep saying, that magma plume formation is connected, and it is not disconnecting. Pardon me. And this is the article from last week. I want to run at least one more week, give you guys an opportunity. Magma plumes, mantle plumes, changing global tectonic, volcanic, dynamic. This is where you're going to get into the definitions to be able to follow the commentary. And to be able to, in my opinion, you get enough of this information inside of you, you're going to be able to go to the Dutch Sense videos and say, wait a minute, because he's going to be off a little bit here, and you're going to be able to do your own forecasting. Get yourself an earthquake 3D. Once you recognize the patterns, you see the 5 magnitude earthquakes at the 10-kilometer depth, you see the patterns, then you can start seeing what's going to happen based upon the new energy that's being added to the magma plume formation, which in this case happened underneath Fiji this week. I'm shaking my head here, waving my arms around. It's just so dramatic. Yes, the jolt came. I didn't see it happening this way. And when I said that the investigation is in uncharted waters, it's definitely in uncharted waters. Usually I can see all this stuff coming. Even with the 7.1 and the 8.1 Mexico quake last year. Remember, we had a watch area circled whenever that happened. It came later in the cycle because the way the Earth was receiving the black star electromagnetism, because the mantle plume connections were not yet made. Bended reality articles, and he's going to go with the 8.2 like I did, and here's 7.3, and are man-made earthquakes possible? Of course they are. If something's ready to go, and you have a powerful enough trigger. Then top stories, obviously, 8.2. Severe hail, thousands displaced, and that's what I can't stress that enough. I cannot believe I had to go search it. Put up earthquakes, volcanoes, volcanic eruption, put on floods, displaced people, and start counting. Get yourself a calculator out, because it's thousands here and thousands there. It's happening all over the planet. You don't want to be caught unprepared when this comes to your town. You don't want to be unprepared. Start preparing now. 2 French rivers just disappear. Gone. And they've had more than average rain. Gone. Things are changing. France, near the terminal end, corridor 3. That's where we've seen that activity. Italy, then it goes to France. And where water was, there's no longer water. Earth changes like a son of a gun. Father and son, this is pretty cool right here. Click on this. Watch the video. Watch this video right here. Listen to the sound of the guy's voice and his son that's in the car. Because, I mean, they're running from a fire. But this could easily be from earthquake. This could easily be from Mad Max. Whenever the crap hits the fan, because there's no food, there's no power, there's no bank card. There's people trying to survive, using whatever they can. Fireball, 40 times bigger than the moon, streaks across Alabama. When do you think that happened? Pinball effect. Go check the fireball logs. Look at the number of fireballs reported for 2018 compared to, go back to 2005 and start. Then just go to 2010. You'll see them doubling. And now tripling, quadrupling, going up through the sky. This is happening more and more and more all the time. Pinball effect, because we have an interloper in the solar system. Yellowstone volcano eruption preparing to biggest blow. Updates. I try to follow this guy, this Dr. Sean Foss guy, and he's giving a lot of the traditional inside-the-box information. I cannot tell yet whether he understands the new dynamic, the deep magma plume dynamic. A lot of the information is right out of the geology textbooks. So I'm a little slow. Plus, I noticed the way he names his videos, it's more about, oh, they're not showing you this rather than the topic that he's actually trying to cover. It's almost like a propaganda campaign in my mind. But tell the guy's real smart. It's if you don't understand the new dynamic, then you're old school, and much of your information is going to be outdated, and it's just going to be wrong. So that's it. Like I keep saying, tons of information in this newsletter. Make sure you go down to the survival section. And Brother Bart and Clint are both writing about silver, about gold. Is it wise to buy gold? And I got a compliment from Brother Bart about, because I disagree with Brother Bart. And once you get your guns, your ammo, everything you need, and you have assets in paper, stocks and bonds and things like that, things that are going to go away when the power goes off, put that into small denomination silver. I'm not recommending gold, but I don't know, maybe if you're on the really high end of the scale, you want to go to that. But just imagine silver going over $200 an ounce and gold going, $5,000 an ounce or something. How safe are you going to be running around with a giant gold piece when the crap hits the fan? So I recommend small denomination silver, and it's for bartering. It's not for hedging against inflation, hyperinflation, or anything like that. That's not what it's for. It's for after the crap hits the fan. You keep stacking. It's at $14 and something. You keep stacking if you have the resources. After you have your guns, ammo, and everything else. That's my advice. And then also, the price is going down right now on the precious metals, so you buy all the way down. You just buy in chunks as you're going down. Waiting for the bottom means you miss it. I've been buying and selling silver for a long time. Made quite a bit of money doing that. You want to buy on the way down. Then when you hit the bottom, you're buying, because you don't know where the bottom is. Then when it starts back up, you stop your buying, and it's going to go up, and then it's going to come down, and when it hits your number, whatever you've decided your number is, which in my mind is around 15 bucks, 14 bucks, then it might go down to 12. So you just buy a little bit as the resources become available on the way down, and then you're a winner in my mind. The guys that are holding on to everything and then trying to hit the bottom, they miss it almost every time. It starts back up, and they're getting ready to pull the trigger. They get filling out the forms and everything, and it goes up another buck. It goes up another 10 bucks. It goes, and then they end up missing the bottom that way. That's just my opinion. And for those that if you don't have the resources, you don't mess around with any of the precious metals. Food, water, guns, ammo, tent, camping gear, the things for developing your survival strategy. That's where you invest it. If you have the resources, then precious metals, they can help you out. Later in the timeline, part of superior survival strategy. So that's what I have to share with you guys. Get more information on the website. And I'll see you guys on the next Black Star Update report. And if what happens, it looks like the scenario is going to play out with a lot more activity, because we haven't seen the end of what with all these deep earthquake events. It's just about now is about the right amount of time to begin seeing those signs. So you might be seeing me making a end of the week report or a midweek report before next Thursday. That could easily happen like this week. Thank you guys again. I'll see you on the next Black Star Update report.